Hello and welcome back to RAD TV UK, reporting for accountable democracy in the UK. I'm Ian Henshall and this is the second part of today's edition. And today, for this part, we're going to be going to Syria, the latest news in a war that's going badly for Britain, France and the US, but which they're threatening to escalate. First, however, I've got a couple of related news items. And here's one from Al Jazeera TV programme. We've reported on this before actually, and the news is getting worse. The epidemic of birth defects and cancer in Iraq following the US-UK's illegal invasion in 2003. And just in case any of you think this doesn't matter, let's remember that that invasion was illegal, and if the worst that comes out to be true, the worst fears turn out to be true, we will be individually as taxpayers liable for paying potentially ruinous and massive reparations to the people of Iraq for what is apparently a plague of cancer and birth defects which has been unleashed. So Al Jazeera is reporting that Dr. Mozgan Sabizafani, a native of Iran and an environmental toxicologist based in Michigan, is demanding that she's saying Iraq is poisoned. Clusters of cancers and multiple cancers in the same individual have become frequent. Sterility, repeated miscarriages, stillbirths and severe birth defects, some never described even in medical textbooks, are all around in increasing numbers. That's what this expert says. And now there's been a WHO study, World Health Organization, in conjunction with the Iraqi Ministry of Health, has done a study into this. 10,800 households in 18 districts with a sample size of 600 households per district. So it's a serious, large-scale survey. The problem, says Dr. Mozan, is that they won't release the information, they won't release the results. So Al Jazeera is carrying this very angry comment piece from Dr. Mozan Sabizafani saying that we must know what the results of this World Health Organization survey is, because it's looking like there's been a mass poisoning in Iraq. So now let's get on to Roy, who's been looking into how the war in Syria is going. Roy, what's the latest news from Syria?
Yeah, what we see now is the Western powers, we're going to arm the rebels better than we have been. We've been arming them officially for a little while now, but unofficially we've probably been arming them for about 2 years. But now we're going to escalate the whole situation really, and it's quite possible that Western forces might actually get involved on the ground as well.
Roy, can I just stop you there? You say we've been arming them. They say that they haven't been arming them. They say that they've just been, sending humanitarian aid or something. Well, is that a flat-out lie?
No, it's not a flat-out lie. I mean, but we've been arming them indirectly through Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and then weapons have been going in through Turkey and that kind of thing.
Okay, so we, the broad coalition, have been arming them, but we, the Britain and America and France, are claiming that we're not arming them because it's all coming in through the other allies. Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, what's been happening over the last few years is we've had the Assad forces and the rebel forces fighting each other, and that's exactly what we want, really, because as long as they're keeping each other busy, then they're not a problem to us. And the last thing Israel wants is a strong Assad or a strong rebel force, really. And there's a lot of thought that the idea is to balkanize the Syria, so that it splits into 3 different states. That takes all the power away from it. What the Western forces are now thinking of doing is introducing another no-fly zone, which is Orwellian doublespeak, isn't it? We know that from Libya because. The no-fly zone in Libya actually meant no-fly zone for the Libyans, but
plenty of flying for us.
Plenty of flying for us, and that way we can just go and bomb the army, bomb all their strategic positions, and civilian infrastructure, which we did a lot of in Iraq and Libya, and we can do that with impunity with a no-fly zone.
Yep. So some people are saying this is just a threat to try and get a good deal out in the Geneva talks, which they're still apparently going ahead with.
Well, are they going ahead with that? Nobody really wants them at the minute, or our side don't, because certainly the rebels have refused to go to the Geneva 2 talks because they'd be negotiating from a position of weakness, really. But yeah, I think I don't. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of toing and froing, and there's a lot of power shuffling being done here. Over the weekend, the US troops have been engaged in Eagle Lion, which has been a military exercise on the southern border of Syria and Jordan. And now that's over, but the Americans have left the F-16s and the Patriot missiles there. Yeah.
So the situation is that, let me get this right, Assad's beginning to win. He's winning, some people say he's winning quite decisively. The rebels, so-called rebels, are unpopular with the Syrian population. Assad's now claiming 70% support from his own population. He's winning the war, and now they're proposing to essentially declare war on Syria with a no-fly zone, which may be a bluff. Well, considering whether it's a bluff or not, I guess they must be looking at public opinion. And here in London, we've had Boris Johnson, who's not known for his, moderate sort of peacenik outlook, saying that it would be madness to now start supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria. What is the public opinion in the West?
Well, largely, there's majority opinion in all Western countries, really, that we shouldn't be doing this again. We shouldn't be getting ourselves into another Middle Eastern quagmire. Yeah, and people do recognise that stench, really, of just saying the Assad regime's used chemical weapons, whereas we know that Carla Del Ponte, the UN representative, reported on this about a month ago and said, well, maybe chemical weapons have been used, but it's just as likely they've been used by the rebels as by the Assad forces. And it doesn't really make sense for Assad to use them. They're saying that 150 people have been killed overall in lots of separate little incidences, but that's not what chemical weapons are for. They're not strategic battlefield weapons. Chemical weapons are for killing large populations, armies or civilians, whatever you want to do. So it doesn't really make sense for Assad to be using them on little things like that. So it just doesn't ring true, and the British public know that. I'm sure the British public know that. And as you say, Boris Johnson has come out and said it would be crazy to be pressing weapons into the hands of maniacs.
Yeah.
Because we saw with Libya that the rebel forces we armed in Libya then took those weapons onto Mali, and this is at the end of the day affiliated to Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
So we're trying to take arms off them in Mali. We're trying to give them arms in Syria. It just doesn't make sense.
But on the other hand, if the West does blink, they'll be faced with a bit of a humiliation, and if they don't blink, then they've pretty much declared war on Syria. So we're going to have to follow this space, I suppose.
Well, I think the Russians seem to be standing very firm.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Putin.
The escalate,
Putin, yeah. But Putin seems to be standing very firm here, really. And the Brits, Dumas, the ex-French foreign minister, said that in 2011 he was here, and the British were plotting trouble in Syria then. So this is something that we've been trying to push for a while, and we're obviously trying to push Obama down this road, really.
Right. Well, Assad, I read an interview with Assad, and he's saying that all the violence was started, but he's blaming the West. He says that what they did was they went into the demonstrations, they shot demonstrators and they shot policemen, and the demonstrators thought the policemen had shot them, and the policemen thought the demonstrators had shot them, and that's how they got the whole thing going.
Yeah.
That's what Assad's saying, and who knows who's to say he's necessarily wrong.
Well, I mean, we can see where if you watch The Revolution Can't Be Televised, about Chavez in Venezuela, when the right-wing coup overthrew Chavez, which he came back from later, but most of that was done by the mainstream TV, and you saw Chavez supporters firing down into the street, which was full of masses and masses of demonstrators, and that's what brought Chavez down. But then It was reported there was a different film of the same shooters shooting down into what was supposed to be the crowd, but the camera panned back and there was no crowd there.
So it was faked.
It was faked. It was all edited in.
Yeah.
So this is what the CIA do.
Yeah,
I mean, this is their role in the world, really. But I think going back to the Boris Johnson thing, I think it's quite interesting that Boris Johnson should be saying that we shouldn't be going into Syria. My take on that is because I don't know about you, but I don't believe that any politician makes autonomous remarks. Really, everything's scripted for some agenda, and I would see Boris Johnson making those remarks as an indication that the West might have to back down. You know, if Russia's going to stand firm, and the Iranians are sending 4,000 troops to Syria now, so there's going to be a confrontation there. You know, it's building up. It's building up. Well, and I think that Boris Johnson's making those remarks because if we do have to back down, then David Cameron's going to take the hit. Really, it's going to be David Cameron that takes the humiliation rather than the country.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Roy.
Thank you.